everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In this video we're going to learn how to work the Kitchener stitch. The Kitchener stitch is used on the end of mittens, like I'm going to use it here, or obviously if you're knitting socks and you want to finish the toe, you would finish mostly with Kitchener stitch. And you usually have the stitches lined up like this. You have your front needle and your back needle and the same amount of stitches on each of them according to the pattern that you're following. The patterns that I'm writing for socks and for mittens, you will always end up with the same amount of stitches on both needles like this when you work magic loop. So the way we're going to end or bind off this Kitchener stitch, it's gonna look you'll see, let me show you on here. It's gonna look like the front stitches and the back stitches are blending together without having a seam. So that's how you close. Let me show you like this. That's what it looks like, and it's a little bit hard to see because this Plotolopi yarn is very fluffy and it's got a big halo, and it's a bit harder to see the stitches, but you can still see what I'm doing. And yeah, this is one version of the mittens, and then I also have a plain version of the mittens, which is just plain stockinette, depending on what you fancy knitting. So yeah, let's go ahead and see what we need. So you will need your stitches to be on your front needle and your back needle. You need a tapestry needle that looks like this. It's a needle that has a big eye here and it's blunt. And also you would need scissors, and I'm just using my embroidery scissors because that's what I had here. So you're going to thread your needle, and I found it quite hard to bind off this way with the Plotolopi, but if you're careful then you should be all right. So thread your yarn through. Don't pull on it too hard because Plotolopi is very fragile. It's unspun yarn. And then you're going to go in your first stitch. Let me just come closer. You're going to go in your first stitch as if to knit and put your yarn through. Pull it all the way through, and then you're going to take off that stitch like that, and you're going to go in a second stitch as if to purl and pull the yarn through. So that's the front part. Then you're going to go to the back needle on the first stitch as if to purl and pull your yarn through. Then we're going to take off that stitch and we're going to go in the second stitch as if to knit, and we're going to pull the yarn through. So you have to be very careful if you're working with unspun yarn because it could just easily rip. So just gently pull on it. So then you come back to the front as if to knit, off as if to purl, leave it on there and pull on to close your stitches. Then to the back first stitch as if to purl, and this is where you have to align your yarn a little bit because you're working with such fragile yarn. So pull on it gently to close, and then as if to knit and leave the stitch on the back needle, and you just want to gently pull on to close the gap. Then come back to the front as if to knit, pull it through and take the stitch off as if to purl, leave the stitch on and pull on your yarn a little bit. Back needle as if to purl, pull it through, and as if to knit, and keep the stitch on. So you continue doing that until you finish your stitches. So in my mittens pattern you won't have that many stitches to deal with. On a usual sock pattern, I usually end up with 10 stitches on each needle, so you will have 20 stitches to bind off. So I'm going to pull, back needle as if to purl, off as if to knit, and keep the stitch on. See, we're nearly finished. Front stitch as if to knit, oops, very easy pull here, take the stitch off as if to purl, leave the stitch on it, back needle as if to purl. And when you go through your stitches, make sure you go through both yarns, because I'm holding these two yarns double, so I need to make sure I go through both yarns. And then as if to knit, and I'm going to leave the stitch on, and as you can see there's a little bit of bulk here. And now you're left with 2 stitches, so I'm going to go in the front needle as if to knit, and I'm going to take that stitch off, and then in the back needle as if to purl, and I'm going to take the stitch off and just pull the yarn through. Make sure you pull it all the way through, and this is what it looks like. As you can see, the column of stitches, they just blend into each other. So then you're left with a little bit of a knot here, but you can just hide it when you weave in the ends. So what I usually do is kind of like pull it a little bit and push my needle through, and then bring it on the inside, and I finish weaving in the end on the inside. Ooh. So yeah, that's how you work the Kitchener stitch. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching. Bye.